But let's jump into this week's code. So last week, this is where we left off. We had built out an amazing game, okay? And we had said, if we overlap with the love hearts, we get a life, which I just did, okay? But if we overlap with the chicken bones, we get a score. But then when we overlap with the chicken bone, a fly comes at us. And if the fly catches us, we actually lose a life. But we figured out a way to fix that, didn't we, Amanda?
Yeah.
So we said that if we catch a chicken bone, but we actually jump over the fly, we get that life. And then we built out our end goal to say, when we reach, oh, there's another fly. When we reach the tree, we win, okay? But this week is all about level 2. And for your home challenge, we sent you off to build out your level 2 and what you think it might look like. So we're super excited to get started in that today. The first thing I'm actually going to do, though, I think, is I'm going to make my background image a little bit more creative, okay? So at the start of this game, we just set our background color. But for the moment, we can actually just click on that block of code and we can go ahead and delete it because we're going to actually create a background image now. So we're getting more creative with this. So we know that our background image is found in scene. So everyone, let's go into scene and let's create our background image. And just put it in your start menu there. Now you can pause me now if you want. You can go ahead and you can make your background image as creative as you want. But I'm going to go ahead here and I am going to make the background blue like it was. I'm going to grab my line tool and I'm going to build some purple mountains. Oh, that's my line tool. Make sure I'm on my pencil. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to be careful that I don't leave any gaps because then the whole thing, when I color it in, will turn purple. So let me see here. Okay, I'm happy enough with that. So let's fill that in. Woo! Okay, purple mountains. Now I'm also, it's very sunny outside today, so I'm actually going to use my circle tool and I'm going to draw a sun. And I'm going to color that yellow. And let's take out some sunbeams. Okay, this is the best that I can do, but I'm sure at home yours is going to look way more creative than mine. Okay, so I'm going to press done. And now I'm going to have a lovely background image. Okay, brilliant. But we want to move on to something a little bit more difficult now. So as you can see, our on-start menu is getting quite complex and quite long, okay? And we learned in our previous game, in our Nemo game, we learned that we can use functions to actually tidy that up. So let's just recap functions really quickly. What exactly are functions? So we use functions to help us organize our code. So as you've seen there in our on-start block, it was really, really long and it was quite complex. And having all of that code live inside our main canvas can actually get really, really complicated. And a function is almost, it's like a little mini program that we can create separate that has nothing to do with our actual program, okay? And another huge reason why we use them is for reusability, okay? So it just means that we can reuse the same code over and over again without having to type out all those lines of code. So, for example, we might have all these lines of code here, okay? And I want those lines of code on button A and on button B, okay? So instead of me having to do it twice, I can actually just put it in a function and then call the function, okay? See how much neater that is and see how quickly we could just reuse the code. That's why functions are great, okay? So we're going to jump back into our game and we are going to create a function. And our functions are in the advanced menu, okay? Because it is a very advanced coding concept, okay? It's used across every coding language. So let's go into functions and let's make a function. And I'm going to call my function start level. I'm going to press done and it comes up here, but I'm just going to move it over so I can see it. Now, what I want this for and what I want to do with this function is I want to put all my placeholders in it, okay? So you know all these for elements of array of all the red and the orange tiles, I want you to take them. So everything from the element and pop it in your start level function, okay? Now, if we look at my game over here, we are going to see that my love heart is gone.
Oh.
And that's because there's two parts to functions, isn't there, Amanda?
Yeah, so you've done what we call defining our function. So you've told our function what exactly it has to do, but then we actually need to, what we say is we call our function.
Exactly. So I need to call this function over in my onStart block so it knows to do all of this code. So I'm going to take call start level. So I went back into functions. I'm going to take call start level and I'm going to drop it in. And now I should see my love hearts back. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as me and Amanda said, today is all about our levels. Okay. And does our level change all the time, Amanda, or does it stay on the same level forever?
Well, you could get it to stay on one level, but we like the idea of having like multi-level games, don't we? So today we're obviously, right now we're on level 1, but today we want to have level 2, and next week we want to have level 3. So actually we want lots of levels in this game.
Exactly. So our level needs to be able to change all the time. And in coding, what is this usually called? We call it a variable, okay? So we've come across variables before. So let's click into variable and make a variable. Now, I already have one called current level, but what I want you to do is go ahead and make your variable and call it current level. Once you have that done, we're going to need this set block, okay? So I am going to take out set and I am going to drag it into my onStart menu and I'm going to zoom in so hopefully you can see it a bit better. Now, I don't want to set my enemy to 0. I want to set my current level and I'm going to set it to 1 because that just makes more sense to me. So we're going to start on level 1. Okay, so make sure you pause me if you want to just make sure you're caught up and you have your variable current level in your onStart menu. Now, something else that I want to happen is last week when we overlapped with the tree, we won the game, didn't we? But this time, when I overlap with the tree, I don't want to win. I want to go up a level. I want to change my level, okay? So let's go ahead and actually just delete that game over win block. And in this block of code now, and remember, yours might not be a tree that you're overlapping with to win, but whatever your code is that made you win last week is going to make you change levels this week. So I am going to go into my variables because that's where my level is. And I want to change, remember, because we want to change the level. So let's take this out and let's say change current level by 1. So that means that when I overlap with the tree, I'm not going to be on level 1 anymore because I'm going to change by 1. I'm going to be on level 2. But one more thing that I need to do in this block is I need to call my function, okay? So that this block of code knows that I also want all of this code. So let's go back into functions and let's call start level. And let's bring it out.
So Corey, if you're calling start level there, does that mean that level 2 is going to be part of that function as well?
Exactly. So in a couple of minutes, we are actually going to use a conditional statement to create level 2. Okay, so let's see if this is working, but we haven't actually, we haven't actually defined level 2 yet. So it's just going to keep bringing me back to level 1. So do you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's do what Amanda said there. Let's actually use our logic, our conditional statements to create these levels. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go into logic and I want you to take out if true then else. And we've used this a lot of times now in our code. These are conditional statements. And let's bring this here. Okay, so what in English, just not in coding terms now, what am I looking to happen? Well, I want to say if my current level is 1, then I want this tile map or I want this level, or else it's not going to be 1, so give me this tile map, okay? So what we need here is the comparison, isn't it, Amanda?
Yeah, we need to say if the level is 1, don't we?
Exactly. So let's go into logic and let's take comparison, and 0 equals 0. That usually helps us out a lot. And we're going to pop it in instead of true. Now, here I want to say if current level is equal to 1, and current level is a variable. So let's go into variables and let's take out current level. Okay, and be careful where you put it. We want to put it in the first 0. And we said we're setting our current level to 1, not 0. So let's change that 0 to 1. Now, we've actually done quite a lot there. So I would say is pause me now and just make sure you're caught up just on this part. Okay? And once you are, you can unpause me and we'll continue. So I want to say if my current level is 1, then I want this tile map. Okay, I want it to look like this. So this is what I want my level to look like. Now, just a trick is, so you don't drag out all of the code underneath tile map, is hold down your control key or your command key if you're using an Apple device, and just drag out the 1 code. And now we're saying if my current level is equal to 1, well, then I want this tile map, or else. Okay, I want a completely new tile map. Now, this is what we asked you to do last week. We wanted you to start building out your level 2, okay? So the first thing I might do is maybe will we get a different background on level 2?
Yeah, I think so. Otherwise, it might not look too different.
Yeah, exactly. It might just look quite similar. So let's go into scene and let's set background image and make sure you put it in the else block, okay? Now, this time, I'm actually going to make it nighttime. So I'll go with dark blue. And again, I'm going to draw mountains, but this time I'll make them this color green. And remember, pause me if you want to go and take more time and be more creative and draw out what you want to draw out. And then I'm just going to try close off this gap here. Okay, I think that might have done it. And whoo! Okay, and instead of a sun, what will we do, a moon?
Maybe go with a moon for nighttime, yeah.
Lovely. And I'll just fill that in. Okay. So now if I'm not on level 1, I'm going to be on level 2 because I'm in my else background, my else statement, and I'm going to have this background. But I also want a new tile map. So let's go into scene and let's set our tile map. Let's bring it out and make sure you're putting it in the else part. Okay. Now, this again is where you can pause me and you can go off now and design the tile map that you created last week as part of your home challenge. But I'm going to click in. I'm going to make mine 50 by 16 again. So I'm going to make it quite long. And let me just zoom out so you can see it. Drag it over. Now, I'm going to make mine pretty simple, okay? But I'm sure at home you will be putting a lot of effort into this. So I'm just going to do straight line, maybe a drop, and then make bubbles go up some, and then down some, okay? And don't forget that on your tile map too, you are also going to need your love hearts and your chicken bones. And remember, our love hearts were the red tiles. So wherever you want a love heart or to gain a life, you just pop your red tiles in. And then the same for your chicken bones, okay? So the orange tile just represents wherever the chicken bone is going to be. And then we had, I think our tree, wasn't it? Was our end point. And it was in dungeon. This one here was what I chose to have as if Bubbles was to fall and get trapped here, okay? Now, one more thing I have to make sure I do is make walls, okay? Because if I don't make these walls, what's going to happen, Amanda?
You're just going to fall through them, aren't you? Because it doesn't know that that's a barrier.
Exactly. So I'm going to make sure I have all these as walls so Bubbles doesn't fall through them. And last one. Oh, I missed one. Go back and get that. And done. Okay. So what do you think? Will we test this out and see if it works?
Yeah, I think it's time to give it a little test run and just see how we get on.
That fly got
You're flying.
Oh no. Okay. Oh. So when I overlap with this tree, I go to the next level, but I'm at the end of it. Okay. So that's okay. We can figure this out. Okay. Because last week we set Bubbles' position. Okay. Remember we done this.
Yeah.
We don't need that this week because we're actually going to do something else. So let's go to set Bubbles' position and let's delete that block. And I think the best thing for us to do now is use a placeholder. Like we did with the hearts and like we did with the chicken bones, let's create a placeholder for where we want Bubbles to start in our tile maps, okay? So what I want everyone to do now is go to your first tile map, so your level 1 tile map, and create a new tile. This can be any color you want, okay? Make it all one color like you did with the red and orange. I'm just going to go with pink because it's the first one there, and press done. Now, on level 1, wherever I put this pink tile map is where bubbles is going to be. So I'm going to say there. Okay. And now I want you to go into tile map 2, so your else tile map. And again, take your pink tile or whatever color tile you used, and wherever you put this is where bubbles is going to be. Okay? But now we actually have to write the code for that. We've only placed the tiles. So again, we're going to use one of these 4 element of values, okay? One of these loops. So let's go into loops and take out 4 element value of list and just put it in here at the very end of your function. We know that we don't want a list, we want an array. So let's go into scene and scroll down until we see array. Okay, and bring this out and pop it in instead of list. Okay, now be sure to pause me to make sure that you're caught up. Okay, now we don't want all of these tiles, we want all of the pink tiles. So whenever there's a pink tile, we want to place bubbles on it. So let's go into scene and look for place. And let me see. Aha. This one here you're looking for, okay? Place my sprite on top of tile map. Bring this out. And obviously change my sprite to whatever your sprite's name is. And we want bubbles to be on top of the pink tile, and our pink tile is our value. So take value and put it in instead of tile map. Okay. Now, bubbles should be on our tile map, and she is, but I don't really want that pink tile there, okay? I want to make that invisible or transparent. So we go back into scene and we scroll down until we see this block of code here. Set transparency or set see-through, okay? And take this and bring it out. And again, we want to make the pink tile invisible. And what is the pink tile? It's our value. So let's bring this down. Now, hopefully this works. Woo!
Brilliant.
Okay, so I'm happy enough with that.
Does it work for level 2, Corey?
Oh, let's check. Okay, so it's important to keep checking as you go, because sometimes you will find errors that you wouldn't recognize. So when coders are coding, they constantly test. Yes. Okay. Brilliant. We're on level 2 now. But I don't know about you, but I kind of want new sprites. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that was part of the home challenge as well. We wanted people maybe to think about some other sprites that could be in their level 2.
Exactly. So what we're going to do now is, okay, I'm just watching carefully at my screen because this can get quite messy quite quickly because we're copying code. So I want those love hearts and I want them again. Okay, but I just want to change the color this time. So I want everyone to do is I want you to right click, okay, or hold, if you're on touch screen, hold, and duplicate. And see, I get that whole thing of code again. Isn't that so handy? Now, we need to be careful where we're putting this. We want to put this in our else block, okay? So it needs to go underneath the set tile map in our else block. And let's try that there. Woo! Okay, this time, I don't have to change anything here because all I want to change is the color of the heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into the heart. And what color will we make it?
We'll go with a purple or yellow.
Yellow, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to just color it in.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that,
nice, yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Nice and bright. Okay, brilliant. Now, I want to do the same for my chicken bones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click where my red tile map is, okay? This one here. And like last time, I'm going to right click, or if you're using a tablet, make sure you just press and hold and duplicate this. And bring this all the way back up to your else, okay? So I know that this is around here. Yep. So let me see, else. So there's the block that I'm looking for. And I need it to go underneath this green part. So watching carefully where I'm putting this now. Woo! Now, one little thing here that I want to change is I actually don't want a chicken bone on level 2 as much as I love them. I might change to, what do you think? We go for a fruit this time, will we?
Yeah, let's change it up a bit.
Strawberry?
Yeah, I love strawberries. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm going to change to a strawberry, but there's something that just doesn't make sense here now in my code. It works and it's fine, but you know, if I'm coding this, chicken bone and chicken doesn't really make sense, does it, Amanda?
No, I think we're going to have to change it up, something more broadly speaking.
Yeah, something more generic maybe, okay? So what we need to do is we need to set our chicken bone to rename that variable, okay? And we've done this loads of times, so it's not new to us. So let's rename, click on chicken bone or whatever your name is and rename it. I'm going to call it yummy. I can't call it food because food, if you remember, is a type of sprite. So it's already taken. That term is actually a key word, so we can't use it. So I'm going to use yummy instead. And again, kind of chicken sprite doesn't make sense. So let's add a new kind. And I'm just going to call it yummy. And press OK. Now, we need to be careful, though, because we need to go to wherever the array of all the orange tiles are and make sure that it's changed, okay? So we know that if we scroll down a bit, we have another one. And it's changed to yummy, but its kind didn't change, okay? So it's kind of still chicken. So I'm going to change that to yummy. And remember to pause me at any stage, because if your variable names are different and your sprite names are different, it might take you a little bit longer to find which one you're changing, but that's absolutely fine, okay? So I do remember there's one more time when we talked about the chicken, and that's when we overlapped, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to have to look for that code now. So on sprite of kind player overlaps with, and I'm going to change this to yummy. Okay, I'm going to test out my code now and see if it works. So here we go. Oh, the fly got me. I lost a life. And you know what you can do? You can insert so many more ways to get a score, okay? Because remember, it's the score that it takes note of at the end of the game. Woo! Okay, my heart is yellow, and I have my strawberries there. So now I'm going to go to the end of this just to see what happens. And I know that I have my tree there, but that's going to send me back to the start. Watch, because I haven't made level 3. But don't worry, we're going to be doing that next week. But for now, I am going to pass you over to Amanda, who's going to do something really cool with you. Amanda is actually going to show you how you can make your sprite climb walls, so that when we do level 3, our sprite can climb. So what we want to say is, we want to say when the game updates, right? Because when the game updates, it actually is checking for new things in your game every frame, every millisecond. So that's what we need. So we're going to go into game, and we're going to take out on game update, okay? Now this code is going to get quite long, so I would advise you to pause me at any stage. So what we want to do is we want to take out an if-then statement, so a conditional statement, okay? So I'm going to take out if true, then else. Okay, all I done there was I went into on game update, okay, and I took this out. And then I just went into logic and I took out if true then. Okay, so I'll leave that there on the screen for a second if you want to just pause me and just make sure you have that. That's all we've gotten to so far. And then we're going to introduce a boolean, isn't it, Amanda? It's and, because we want.
So we're checking, I suppose I only came in there, Corey, but I think we're talking about getting bubbles to climb the walls, are we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So obviously in a minute we're going to add walls into our tile map, and basically we want to check 2 things. Basically, when bubbles hit a wall, bubbles hits the wall, we wanted to check 2 things. One is what side is the wall on? So is bubbles hitting the wall on the left or the right? And then the other thing we want the game to check is what bubbles velocity is at that point in time. So because we're checking 2 values and we're seeing if they're true, it's called a boolean.
Okay, so this is cool. I don't think we've used this before. So let's go into logic and take out a boolean, and we're working with and it literally fits into true like a dream. Now, what we want to do is we want to check if Bubbles is going to be hitting a wall. So let's go into scene and let's scroll down. And there should be, aha, is my sprite hitting a wall? Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in, see the first diamond shape here. And again, let's change my sprite to Bubbles. Now, in what direction do we usually face, Amanda?
Well, initially, we're always walking towards the right. So it's going to be if Bubbles hits the wall to the right of us to begin with anyway.
Exactly. And then we want to say, we want to check Bubbles' velocity on Y, okay? So we've used this before and we are going to need a comparison for it, okay? So let's go into logic and we're going to take out this one here and we can change the sign, okay? So don't worry. And we're going to take that and we're going to pop it in. Ooh, make sure it's only that diamond. Perfect. And we want to say if Bubbles VY, and we've seen that so many times now, it's in sprites, okay? And we don't see it straight away, but we know that there's an arrow here, we can change it. There's an arrow there, we can change it. So let's take this out. Make sure, again, watching carefully where I'm putting it, into 0. Oh, into the first 0. And change my sprite to Bubbles and change X to velocity on Y. Now, what we're checking for is the velocity greater than or equal to 0? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, so basically what we're going to do is when Bubbles hits the wall, so our condition will check, has Bubbles hit the wall on the right and Bubbles' velocity. And when we think about greater than or equal to 0, basically Bubbles is going to be either level. So where Bubbles is right now is 0. Think of that as 0. Or if Bubbles kind of went downwards, that would be greater than. Because what we're going to say is if she hits the wall and she's where she is or below there, then she's going to stay where she is. But we're basically going to put her arms out. And then, or else, if she's not at those values, then she's going to basically be up in the air. And then we want her to climb over the walls.
Okay, so that sounds good. But you know what I think might help us? I think if we start actually drawing some walls in our tile map.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
That might help us see it better. So we have our first block line of code there. So just make sure that you have that matched up. So remember, pause me if you need to. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up to my first tile map. So my level 1 tile map, which is all the way over here through all this code. And I'm going to just put some walls in it, okay? The reason why I'm using level 1 is because our game, remember, is set to level 1 at the start. So it's going to keep going to level 1. So it's just easier to do them on this level. And I'm going to take my lovely tile and I'm going to draw a wall. Okay. And then I'll draw one here as well. Okay. So what I need to do as well then is I need to make them solid walls, don't I?
Yeah, so, otherwise it's not, we're going to go through them again.
Exactly. So brilliant. Now we can actually see the walls when we refresh. Okay. Great. So nothing's really happening at the moment, and that's because we need to go back down and we need to continue writing these lines of code. So what we need to say now is we need to put everything to 0, okay? So what we need to say is we need to set Bubbles VY to 0. So let's go into sprites and let's set my sprite VY. So let's take this out. And I'm going to say Bubbles and VY. Okay, so set Bubbles velocity on Y to 0. And then I'm actually just going to right click and duplicate this because I need this block of code again. I just need to change it and manipulate it. I could go all the way back into sprites if I want, but we know now that we can duplicate code. So let's just duplicate this. And I'm going to set Bubbles AY, okay, the acceleration on Y to 0 as well. And now my favorite part is we're going to actually draw what Bubbles is going to look like when she's climbing the wall. So let's go into sprites and let's scroll all the way down until we see set my sprite image. And we're going to bring this in. And again, my sprite is Bubbles or whatever your sprite is called. And here I can click in and I can draw my sprite again if I want, but I know mine's in the gallery. And my one is this here. But because I want Bubbles to be climbing walls, I'm actually going to make this picture a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say like 18 wide, maybe. We'll give us a bit of room.
Yeah, I think 18 is what I did when I was playing around, and then you can give nice little arms, outstretched arms, and and you're a fan of giving Bubbles kind of gloves or something.
Yeah, it looks like she's wearing gloves or like mittens, even though she'd be sweating because it's so warm out. But okay, we're going to press done. Now we're going to say, okay, let's move across. Woo!
Yeah.
And her little arms come out.
That's cool. So yeah, so we just said there, if Bubbles hits the wall on the right, and if Bubbles is where she is on the kind of ground level, which is 0 or below that, then she's going to just stay where she is, and she's going to put her arms out. But now we need to tell Bubbles that if she's actually higher, so remember, if Bubbles jumps, she goes into minus. So that's going to be all included with our else statement, because if it's not greater than or equal to 0, it's obviously the opposite, which is less than 0. So maybe, Corey, we can now give an instructions that Bubbles will climb up the walls.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to actually set Bubbles' acceleration, aren't we? We're going to give her, I don't know, a lot of acceleration, maybe like 300 or something. So we'll set Bubbles, and it's AY. So acceleration on the Y-axis, and I'm actually going to say 350.
Yeah, go 350.
And then... Woo!
And it only works, doesn't it, when you jump, because basically that's where else kicks in. Because if Bubbles is level, she's still at 0, which is going to be the if statement. But else is the minute she jumps in the air and she goes into the minus Y values.
Exactly. Okay. So now if I keep going, if I go to, let's say, I just think it's so cool when she can jump. If I go back, I lose. Okay, because I haven't said if Bubbles hits the wall left. I've only said right. So this is where we're actually going to bring in an else if statement. So I'm going to press this plus button here. Okay, and remember, pause me at any stage. Okay, so there's the code that we're working on at the moment. Just pause me if you want to catch up. But we're going to take an else if statement. And in here, I actually want all of this again, except I just want to change this to left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to bring it in and pop it in the diamond. Now, all I need to say this time is if Bubbles is hitting a wall to the left, okay? And it's still going to be Bubbles VY less than 0. And then all I want to do then in here is I want to take out all of this again. Okay, so let's right click and duplicate the first block and pop it in else if. Let's click on the second one. So right click and duplicate. And I just need one more. I just need this one. And then we're going to show you something really cool again.
Perfect.
So
it's nearly, it's all the same really, Corey, except we're just saying left. And now, like you said, we do have to just change one little thing, but people might want to pause at this point and just check all that. There's a lot going on.
There is a lot, and I would definitely pause if I was you at home, just to make sure that you have this. I remember the first time I seen this, I think it took me 8 times to get this right. I couldn't get Bubbles to go left. I couldn't get Bubbles to jump. So it really does take a lot of practice, okay? So pause me and then see if you can get this far. And once you do, now we're going to see if we can climb the wall to the left. Okay, we can, but Bubbles looks a bit mad. So what I think we should do is flip Bubbles so that when she's hitting the wall to the left, she actually turns and looks like she's climbed the wall to the left. And how we do that is we search, okay, this is just the easiest way to find it. And we search flip. And then we see flip picture horizontally. So let's take this out. And let's put this in here. Now, we're not flipping the picture horizontally, and we're not even flipping Bubbles horizontally, because Bubbles is our sprite. We're flipping Bubbles image. So let's go into sprites and scroll all the way down to the bottom. And see this one here, my sprite image, take that and put it in instead of picture. And change my sprite image to bubbles image. And now let's test. Remember, it's so important to test as you go. And let's see.
Yeah.
Woo!
Ah, brilliant.
That looks really, really cool. I'm super happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what you can do is you can go back now and you can actually remove those walls from level 1 if you want, if you don't want the walls on your level 1. But what we're going to do next week is we're actually going to introduce level 3. And level 3 is going to be probably our last level. And on level 3, there's going to be loads of walls. Okay?
So with level 3, Corey, so far in our function, if I'm right, if I remember, we only had if current level was 1 or else. So do we need to be a little bit more clear for it when we do and add another level now?
We are going to. So see there, we used if, else when we were talking about bubbles. Yeah. But we're going to do the same here. So if I scroll down, I can actually add another condition. Okay. So then it would be if my current level is equal to 1, then do this. Else if current level equals to 2, then do all of this. Else level 3. Okay, so it's actually really handy because the conditional statements really, really help us when we're gaming. We can have as many levels as we want, to be honest. You could keep going forever. And that's exactly how we do it.
Perfect. So, Corey, I might get you to bring everyone through what we've learned now, if that's all right.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go. That's the end of our game for this week, but don't forget we're going to keep continuing on to it next week, waiting to see what we're going to get up to. But for today, what did we learn? Okay, well, we actually covered a lot because we covered functions, and functions are really, really advanced. Okay, it's an advanced coding concept that you do across every coding language. So well done for sticking with us with the functions.
I love functions. they just make these like bite-sized chunks of code, units of code that we can just reuse over and over again. So they're going to be so useful as people build more in their games.
Definitely. And then even the inverted Y. So we've been covering that quite a lot, but we even covered it way more today when we were talking about how we were making bubbles jump. Okay, so remember our inverted Y it's different to what we learn in maths. It's the Y-axis is actually the opposite. When we go up, we go into minuses. So well done on that. We looked at arrays again, and we covered our for loops, which was our 4-element in value of list. Okay. So what is your home challenge? We might have mentioned it during the webinar. So next week, we're going to add level 3 to our game. So like you did last week, use the template that we have on Homespace Files to design out exactly what you want your level 3 to look like. And remember to include something that your sprite can climb, because your sprite can climb now. So you the world is your oyster with level 3. You can do whatever you want.
I can see already some people are commenting about being excited about adding level 2. So I'd say they're even more excited about adding level 3, which is brilliant. But there's actually a really good question here, Corey, just about functions, actually. The fact that we actually have lots of code in our start level function, and about maybe could we break it up and make it even better, like in terms of breaking up our functions. And it's actually something we looked at, isn't it, myself and yourself, when we were practicing this. We thought the same.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually work for us, and we're still kind of investigating why that is. We think it could be to do with the arrays. So we're gonna investigate further, and if needs be, we'll reach out to our amazing colleagues in the MakeCode team as well, because we were thinking the same thing. It would be nice to have a function that for each level, because then the code would even be better organized, wouldn't it? And easy to call on as well. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, it'd be so much neater. So we are investigating it and we are looking into it, and hopefully we'll have an answer for you.
Yeah.
So well done, everyone, on another amazing week of your game design with MakeCode Arcade. So we can't wait to see you back next week at the same time to develop out level 3 and waiting to see what's in it. I can't wait to show you. Me and Amanda are super excited. So well done, everyone, and see you next week.
Bye, guys.